Hi and welcome back to a new video. A couple of weeks ago we were testing Noctua's new AIOs which were performing incredibly well. Turned out I apparently made a mistake in my video, which is not related to the Noctua AIO itself, but related to this AIO. And I think the testing results of this were a lot worse than they should have been. And today we will figure out or try to figure out why. The Seasonic Prime PX 2200 is currently one of the strongest PSUs available, and it comes with two native PCIe 5.1 connectors, which allows to even hook up natively to RTX 5090. That is perfect for any overclocking system or high-end workstations. I'm also currently running this PSU, and so far I'm really satisfied with its quality and performance. The cables are very flexible, there are also cable comms included, and in addition also a 90-degree ATX 24-pin adapter, which also functions as a PSU tester at the same time. The fan is semi-passive, and even at a high load it is still very quiet. Find all information about this PSU in the link in the description. These were my test results from the Noctua AIO video, which was led by Noctua's LC136 with an average CPU temperature of 81.1 degrees Celsius, and with a big gap to the bottom we can see the Endorphi Navis F360 ARGB with a test result of 88.9 degrees Celsius on the CPU temperature average. All of this was tested inside this system, which I luckily did not disassemble yet. It's based on an X870E Hero with a 9800X 3D. And what I was doing is basically run Prime 95 for 20 minutes and then take the average CPU temperature. And if we quickly go back to the overview, you will notice that Endorphi Navis F360 ARGB was even behind some of the 240 AIOs. So for example, the Liquid Freezer 240 or the Noctua AIO 240. And looking at these results, there is a bigger gap, but it was still somewhat plausible to me. If you just look at the Endorphi Navis, it is super cheap, about 70 euros. And then we had the Corsair Titan, which was performing really good, and this cost twice as much. And there was a temperature difference of 6 degrees Celsius between them at the same noise level. And it still sounded kind of alright to me. But the reason why this should be wrong is because of my laziness in the end. And the reason why the test results should be wrong is because of the fans. Because this specific system was built by me in May for a different video, when I was making a video about the Endorphi Aquarius 8000 case. And this Aquarius 8000 case in the Corona edition comes with 4 Endorphi Corona fans. When I was talking to Endorphi about the Aquarius 8000 video, they said they are sending the Corona edition, which has those Corona fans pre-installed. And then I said, okay, to make everything look like super nice and smooth, it would make sense that you send more of those Corona fans to me so I can swap the fans on the Navis AIO to the Corona fans to make everything look nice and just fit together. Now, the problem with this is obviously when I was shooting the Noctua AIO video, I completely forgot about that. That was like a month later and I forgot that I swapped the fans. You can see it in the original Aquarius 8000 video that I was swapping the fans, I was even talking about it, but at the point like 1 month later, I had simply forgotten about that fact. And then Endorphi reached out to me, and that's absolutely fair because I was not comparing the stock condition of the AIOs. They said the Navis AIO should have performed better than it did, and that's an absolute fair criticism, and that's why I want to revisit this and also retest, because at this point I don't know how big the impact is, but the stock fans are the Fluctus fans, and obviously if I'm reviewing an AIO, I should have tested all of them in the same like stock condition how you buy it, and not with other fans that could be just case fans that might perform a little bit worse. And that's why we will now switch back from the Corona fans back to the Fluctus. Already swapped the fans, now just have to take out the Noctua AIO and put the Endorphi AIO inside. I have everything set up again, similar to the previous AIO test. What I now have to do is with this microphone make sure that the AIO is running at a noise level of 40 decibels. That was the idea behind the entire first video, to compare all of the AIOs at the same noise level while the pump is running at max pump speed. At the 40 decibels noise level, the fans are running at a speed of 1300 RPM on the AIO. We have the case fans with about 500 RPM. They are at a very low fan speed, so they don't impact basically the fan speed of the AIO. And the pump is running at 2700 RPM. And again, like last time, we were running the same test, Prime 95. You can see the power consumption is the same, about 155 watts. And what we will inspect after the 20 minutes is the average CPU temperature. And now after the 20 minutes, I have a test result of 85.7 degrees Celsius. Checking the results of the retest in the table, we can see Endorphi's Navis F360 with 85.7 degrees Celsius just in the middle of the field. But it can definitely beat the Liquid Freezer 3-40 of Arctic. However, there is still a difference of 3.4 degrees Celsius to Corsair's Titan 360 RX. But looking at the price, the Navis F360, considering those new results, is actually a pretty good choice. The results show a difference of 3.2 degrees Celsius between the originally bundled Fluctus fans and also those Corona fans, which kind of makes sense. If you look at these, then you can see they are probably just case fans to look nice and just have ventilation inside your case, where static pressure probably doesn't matter too much. We have this RGB ring, which also just decreases the blade diameter and then has an impact of the performance overall. And there you can see what kind of impact it can be just between two different fan models. It's 3.2 degrees Celsius. And I'm quite sure if you would check between an even better fan blade versus probably an even worse fan blade, you can definitely have results that are like more than 5 degrees Celsius different if you just look at two different fan models. In the end, it's super important for me to deliver accurate results for both parties. Obviously, for you as a viewer, it is important to get accurate data, as accurate as it could be, because it could influence your buying decision. And I just want to provide correct data to you. On the other hand, it's also very important for the manufacturer that I'm testing the things correctly, because it can have a big financial impact on, again, buying decisions. And then when I was thinking about especially like this specific case, I realized that I definitely had those things already in the past. Not in exactly the same scenario that it then impacted an AIO test video afterwards, but that I had, for example, a manufacturer of a case shipping me a case with fans pre-installed and at the same time provide an AIO from the same manufacturer that comes with different fans installed. And then you're left with a choice, like in this case, are you going with something that might look more fancy, like those Corona fans, or are you going in the direction of getting like, let's say, high static pressure fans that might not look as appealing, but have just better performance? And or just mixing. Mixing could also be an option, right? I could just use different fans on the AIO than I'm using on the case. And those are options I have to think about. What am I doing for the future if I have exactly this kind of thing again? And that's also one of the aspects why I was often criticizing in the past if I get cases with fans pre-installed, because they always push you already into some direction. Whereas if it's just an empty case, then you have all the choice for yourself. You can then get an AIO, for example, and just get the same fans again as what you might have already installed on the AIO. From my personal opinion, I would go in the direction of just getting the performance fans, like in this case, just get more of the Fluctus fans, throw out the fans from the case, replace all of them with Fluctus as well, and then just have more performance-related tests. But then that also impacts the price, because typically those case fans, the fans that are often bundled with cases, are just very low-cost fans. And the high-performance fans are just more expensive. So there's like trade-offs you have to make. But yeah, we'll have to definitely consider this more for future videos. And I hope you enjoyed this. See you next time. Bye-bye.